Welcome to For the Love of Books, a podcast by Lanarkshire Libraries. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Lanarkshire Libraries podcast For the Love of Books. My name is Chris Wilson and I'm the E-Services Librarian for Lanarkshire Libraries, and I can't believe we're back with another season of the podcast. It's already on to season 5, which is just mind-blowing, and for the first episode back in this season, I thought I would challenge some of our staff to recommend their favourite children's read, because this podcast is going live on World Book Day, which is a fantastic day. Who doesn't love to see people celebrating books all around the country, and the kids get dressed up as their favourite characters and things like that. And of course, you get a book token as well, which is a fantastic thing to get money off a book, or you can get one of the World Book Day books themselves, of which this year my favourite I think must be the Hey Dougie book, the World Book Day badge book, which I just love the idea of getting a badge for World Book Day. So before I go on too much about all that, we'll get on to our first clip, which will be from Craig Tobin.
Before Hogwarts, there was Meg and Mog, one of the classic picture books growing up. Meg and Mog was probably the first book I ever got from the children's library in Doncaster, actually. If you're wondering where this accent's from, it's from Doncaster. So yeah, before Harry Potter, you had Meg, the lovely witch, and Mog, the little cat. And actually, I can't believe it's over 40 years old now. Usually with those books, they're board books, so they're good for grubby hands. But take a trip down memory lane. It doesn't matter how old you are. Jan Pinkowski, I think I've said that right, brings back the magic for even adults. And if you've got children, it's definitely a recommended read for you and the little one. Meg and Mog on their little adventures brings back so many warm and fuzzy memories.
I absolutely love Craig's passion there for Meg and Mog, and comparing it to Harry Potter, I'm not so sure, Craig, but if that was your favourite, then we'll let you have it. And this year for World Book Day is a special year for it, because it is the 25th anniversary, and it's a great time to be celebrating books and our love of children's reading. So up next we have got Thomas, who is the new librarian at Coatbridge Library.
I'm Thomas Clark, librarian at Coatbridge Library, and for World Book Day, my favourite children's book is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, which is Matthew Fitt's Braw Scots translation of the first of the Harry Potter novels. Now, Harry Potter in itself is a fantastic book, there's no question about that, but the Scots of Matthew Fitt, the vibrant, skyry clear Scots, really lends new dimensions, new scary, beautiful, and sometimes hilarious dimensions to an already classic story. So yeah, my favourite book, my recommended book for World Book Day is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Thomas is our resident Scots language expert, and if that is something that you're interested in finding out a little bit more about, that is definitely a great one to start with, because who doesn't love the Harry Potter stories, and who wouldn't love it in Scots? So that's a great way how to get started and find out a little bit more about the Scots language on as well. So next up we have got Peter.
My name is Peter Benassi, and my choice of children's book is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. This enormously entertaining book captivated me from the very first read, and I've been a fan ever since. It not only enriched my vocabulary at a young age, but it had me roaring with laughter throughout. From its funny character names to its hilarious rhymes and story incidents, this is one sweet treat indeed, and served as my introduction to the wonderful world of Roald Dahl's delightful books.
Our digital assistant there, Peter, has definitely made me feel a little bit hungry for some chocolate, but I will try and resist, and we'll move on to Alison, who is the community librarian at Coatbridge Library, and she'll tell us a little bit about her favourite children's book.
Hi, I'm Alison, and I'm the community librarian at Coatbridge Library. Choosing my favourite children's book to share with you this World Book Day has been a very hard thing to do. There are so many to choose from. Ones I loved as a child, ones I love to read to my children, and do I pick a picture book, a novel, a classic, or something modern? It's too hard. Anyway, my choice I think encompasses all of this. It is a picture book, but with a lot of story, and it's a modern classic, but its themes still resonate with children and families today. So I think that is why Dogger by Shirley Hughes is my favourite children's book. This story of a soft brown toy called Dogger that belonged to a boy called Dave tells the well-worn story of the loss of a much-loved toy and the quest to get him back, all accompanied by the typically fabulously detailed illustrations of Shirley Hughes. I love that we know that Dogger had 1 ear stuck up because of cuddling, or that occasionally he got washed and hung out with the washing in the line, or, on that fateful day when he was lost, Joe the baby doesn't get an ice cream because he is too dribbly. But my most favourite character is Bella, Dave's sister, and not just because she saves the day. I love that she goes to bed with 7 teddies and is squished in against the wall as a result, and her general exuberance as a character. She helps to look for Dogger in her toy box. She wins the 3-legged race, and the raffle, and a huge giant teddy bear, and she helps Dave to get Dogger back from the stall where he finds him for sale. But most of all, I love that to get Dogger back, she forgoes the giant teddy bear she has won, and swaps it with the little girl who's bought Dogger, so that she will give Dogger back to Dave. To give you a taste, the opening lines of this book are just the perfect setup. Once, there was a soft brown toy called Dogger. One of his ears pointed upwards, and the other flopped over. His fur was worn in places because he was quite old. He belonged to Dave. Also, if you enjoy Dogger and Dave, you are going to love Alfie and all of his escapades, or Lucy and Tom on their adventures. Lucy and Tom in particular have got us through some massive life events like moving house or starting school. So, happy World Book Day.
I think we've all got a favourite toy from whenever we're a child, and maybe that's one of the reasons why Alison finds that book is such a good one to have as a favourite children's book, because it brings back memories of some of the toys that we've had in the past as well. Next up, we have got Jennifer from Shot's Library to tell us what her favourite children's book is.
Hi there, my name's Jennifer and I work at Shot's Library. My favourite children's book is Shh by Sally Grindley. It's been my favourite children's book since I was little myself. I loved all the flaps and seeing if the giant had heard us yet as we snuck our way through the book. And the best bit that I've remembered ever since I was little was after running away from the giant, my mum would shout, "Quick, shut the book!" And we would slam the book closed and hope that the giant hadn't managed to sneak out and get us.
I absolutely love that Jennifer's recommendation has that personal memory attached to it with reading from her mum reading it to her as a child. And that's one of the great things about children's books, because I think they can really ingrain that personal memory from really kind of special times of spending time with parents and reading a book. Up next, we've got Hilary, who is going to take on a classic as her favourite one. She's bending the rules a little bit by going with a series, but we'll let her off with it.
I'm Hilary Petrie, one of the digital learning officers with North Lanarkshire Libraries. In terms of my favourite children's book for World Book Day, I'm going to cheat a little and talk about a series of books that I read several times as a child. These were the Laura Ingalls Wilder Little House books. Set during the late 1800s in the US, when farmers and others were migrating west into the American frontier. The books themselves were published in the 1930s. And they tell the story of Laura and her family, her big sister Mary, her parents Caroline and Charles. And later on in the series, Laura becomes a big sister herself when baby Carrie arrives. There's also lots of cousins and grandparents, all part of the big extended family. Through the series of books, the family moves from Wisconsin to Kansas, north again to Minnesota, and out to the Dakota Territories, following the westward expansion of the frontier. The first book, Little House in the Big Woods, had the girls exploring farm life, hunting, and things like tapping trees to make maple syrup. In Little House on the Prairie, the family loads up their covered wagon and move to the Kansas prairies to build a home, before heading north again to Minnesota and then on to the Dakota Territories in the later books. Once they're in Minnesota, Laura and Mary go to school, the rural frontier school, and they have to try and settle in there. Later on in that story, Mary contracts scarlet fever, which causes her to lose her sight. But eventually, Mary's able to attend college in Iowa, and Laura goes on to complete her teacher's certificate. These were books filled with adventure and exploration. The girls weren't held back by being girls, and hardships were real. People and animals got sick and sometimes died. Accidents happened. But that was always contrasted by family and community, people working together against the terrain and the elements. I think it was book 6 in the series, which was called The Long Winter, which was set in the winter of 1880 and 1881. Yeah, I did have to go and look up that detail. Which was one of these really heavy winters when the blizzard started in mid-October and lasted for 7 months. Eventually the trains got through again, and Christmas was eventually celebrated in May. There's been some criticism of the portrayal of Native Americans in the stories, but it's interesting to see that in 2018, Time still ranked the Little House series as 22nd out of the 100 best young adult books of all time.
Hilary's recommendation there really shows that some books do last forever in the memory and are classics for a long, long time. And that's another great thing about writing, is that they can be quite timeless. Next up, we've got our final recommendation from Susan from New Mains Library, and she is going for a young adult book, which is one of my favourite young adult books as well. So I'm glad that this one made the list for the podcast today.
Hi everyone, Susan from New Mains Library here. Happy World Book Day to you all. Today I wanted to tell you a little bit about my favourite book, which is one called by Patrick Ness called The Knife of Never Letting Go. It's part of a trilogy called Chaos Walking, and the very first book is about our hero is Todd and his dog Manchi, and Todd lives in a world where every thought he has in his head comes out as noise. Noise comes out in the form of pictures and words all around you, so everybody at all times can hear what's going on in your head. The reason why I love this book is Todd has a lot going against him. He had very little education because the mayor of the town decided to burn all the books. But why I really love Todd as a character was he is just innately good, and it's this goodness and kindness that really pulls the story forward, and he never gives up if he believes that something is correct. So I suggest everybody go and have a go at reading it. It's absolutely amazing, as everything that Patrick Ness does. So I hope you all have a lovely World Book Day. All the best and happy reading to you all. See you all soon. Bye.
I definitely second Susan's recommendation of the Chaos Walking series. It's a fantastic series for any young adults to get into and read through, and it's just a really interesting and unique setup, I think, in the story, which is fantastic. We can't end the podcast without putting in my own recommendation, and I'm going to go with one which is one that I have really enjoyed reading to my son. It is The Lion Inside by Rachel Bright and illustrated by Jim Field. It's a picture book, and the illustrations by Jim Field are beautiful. There's a whole series of books from the collaboration, and the illustrations in them all are really beautiful as well, and it's one of the things that really attracts me to the book. But other than that, the story itself is lovely. It's all about a mouse who decides to go and try and find the roar of the lion because he's fed up being the one always left out and things like that. And it's about building the friendship between the lion and the mouse. It's a lovely story, and it's definitely one that's worth looking at. I hope you all have a fantastic World Book Day, or have had a fantastic World Book Day probably by the time you've listened to this podcast. And if your little ones have dressed up for World Book Day, please do remember you can tag us on Twitter and on Facebook and show us what characters they dressed up in. We would love to see all the different characters that were important enough for your family to kind of dress your kids up as for World Book Day. As for a little bit of an update on our services, we have got lots of things happening in person now in libraries. Some of our book clubs are back in person, and book bug sessions are back in some of the libraries as well, which I know is very exciting for some people and has been very popular since it has come back. And there's always new stuff happening, which you can find out on our website at www.culturenail.co.uk/libraries, and you will find all the library information in amongst those pages that are on there. But that's all for me for now, guys. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please do leave us some feedback at #FLBpodcast, or by dropping us a little email to librarypodcast@northland.gov.uk, and we'll be back again soon. Bye bye, guys.